Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast. We have an amazing guest for you today. He's a leading loan officer, real estate investor, podcaster, thought leader, impacting the lives and changing neighborhoods. Please help me welcome Ryan DeMent, managing partner at TruVest. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be on.
Well, it is great to have you. We've had a lot of discussions and we've talked about market conditions. So, where I want to start is we've heard enough. We're already in December. We've heard how tough of a year it is. I'm kind of done hearing about how tough it was and all the struggles and everything. Why are you optimistic and excited about being in the mortgage industry today?
Where there is upheaval, there's change, and that means there's opportunity. And I can see it on a daily basis. I send out a weekly email to realtors, and every single week I get anywhere between 15 and 20 emails that bounce that say the email is no longer valid. So it tells me there's still more and more people getting out of the industry, but also the people that are left are going to be the people that they're out there making cold calls, they're sending emails, they're connecting with people, they're talking. I think there's almost a new breed or a generation coming into the industry, kind of refreshing a little bit and growing. Um, as a loan officer, I'm young. I mean, August, but I've been in this space since 2008 when we had that thing that we call the Great Recession. And I
Yep.
started buying defaulted mortgages back then. I had no clue what I was doing. I got shown this by a mentor that's still a good friend of mine today. And I just have evolved. But the mortgage industry as a whole is such a great industry to be in. You get to help people buy the largest asset they're probably going to buy in their lifetime, be able to get them something that they otherwise didn't think they could get, but then they get to raise their family and start creating generations there to help them grow. And just I call it freedom because rent is not going to give you freedom. You're stuck to that landlord's rent on a monthly basis, and then when he or she decides to raise it at the end of the year or the end of your contract, you're stuck. But if you get that fixed 30-year mortgage, you get to pay it off and get some equity in that property, and you're building wealth.
Well, you've made so many good points there, and I agree with you. I think as the market has struggled, I love your first point about there's always opportunity. If we look back, you and I are both in the industry in 2008. If you really look back historically, look at who were the top lenders in 2008. They're not the top lenders that are the top producers right now, right? But the companies that leaned in, whether it was UWM, whether it was Rocket, whether, and we could go on the list, those companies in a tough market back in 2008, they leaned in. They
Hmm.
looked for innovation. They looked for new strategies. And more importantly, to your point, they implemented and executed some of the old strategies, whether it
Yep.
is the cold calling, whether it is the outreach, whether it's going to a closing, whether it's, attending open houses. There's still fundamentals that need to take place. So, point number one, I couldn't agree with more. Two, it really comes down to the people and what we're doing. We're putting people into homes. Like you said, they're building their families, they're celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, they're dealing with tragedies, they're dealing with exciting things that happen, kids' report cards. Those are life events that they're always going to remember. And if you can be a part of helping them get in there, that has a huge impact on people's lives. So let's talk a little bit about, as you have optimism for it, one of the things that I've seen you do very, very effectively, you also are a podcaster. You've
Mhm.
leaned in and you're doing videos. Talk to me about the power of videos and why LOs really should be embracing the power of doing videos and getting their message and story told.
The funny thing is, I'm going to back up and talk about or want to discuss. I had a conversation last week with a realtor that just kind of gave up, is really just stopped. She has houses listed, they can't get sold. She has buyers that she can't connect with. And one of the biggest things we talked about was mindset and shifting and trying to find a way to make things come together. And she is relatively new in the industry. When I say relative, I think she came in 2021, 2022.
Okay,
So
so
she
in the
was used to
heyday,
that, yeah, list a house and it was sold in 5 minutes. And we talked about the ability to change, adapt, and overcome. And one of the, I guess the best way to describe it is not the only way I know to describe it is this. If you're not out there putting yourself out in front of people, how are you going to succeed? And that kind of rolls back into what I wanted you what you just asked about. So LO should be using video because they need to get in front of people. You can't be hidden in this environment. There's so much noise in the actual environment today. People telling you to do this, people telling you to do that. But if you can start making engaging content that people can react to or maybe even talk to you with, is going to be life changing. Is it going to happen overnight? No. I have two podcasts. One has been around for 5 years, one's been around for 2 years. I did not see any type of lift from creating podcasts and video till probably about year three on my first podcast. My second podcast is just starting to lift off, and it's because I'm a consistent person that puts that message out there. And that message, whether one's called chasing financial freedom, one's called chasing happiness, two different things. But back to the LOs, if you're consistent in your messaging and you find that niche that you want to serve, those group of people, tribe, whatever you want to call them, will come find you. It's going to take time, it's going to take effort, but it will change. I mean, in a matter of the time that I've started with Nexa in August to now, I've grown my social presence almost twofold just for the
Awesome.
simple fact I'm letting people know who I am and what I'm doing. Because most people know me as a podcaster and a real estate developer. They had no idea that I am also a loan officer. So that was a very, I don't want to say difficult, but it was a challenge to let people know that I can do multiple things
Yep.
and connecting with them. Really just having those human to human conversations. And my personality is a lot different than most. I'm sarcastic and I'm upfront. So I have to be real to myself and I try to curb the sarcasm, but there's wittiness that comes out, and that's just me. People are either going to like me or they're not. And I think that's with loan officers today is put yourself out there, be comfortable in your skin, and just enjoy the ride with making the video. It doesn't have to be perfect. Hit the record button, have a message that you want to share, and start putting it out there and see where it takes you.
Well, I love it. And I think it's all about, I always say, it's always about adding value. And so
Mhm.
when you talk about putting yourself out there, for one, there's always hurdles, and we'll talk about those in a second of why people don't put themselves out there. But I think to your point, share who you are. What you're going to do is you're going to attract like minded people to yourself, and the people that don't like you are going to stop following you, whether it's you or my style or whatever. But if you don't put yourself out there, you're not even going to be in the game. In today's modern loan originator, in today's forward thinking originator, however you want to phrase it, if people don't know who you are, they don't know the value that you bring, and they don't know why you're different, how are you ever going to continue to get business? So the first thing is we both agree completely. You've got to put yourself out there. You've got to lean in and start doing video. Talk to me a little bit about why you think people are so apprehensive to do it. Is it ego driven? Are they worried about what do I look like? Are they worried about content creation? Are they worried about what will people say? What do you think some of the big hurdles are for people getting started?
I think they're worried about what people think. I mean, that's probably the biggest aspect of creating videos. Now you're opening yourself up to potentially tens of thousands, millions of people if that video goes viral. I was on a group Zoom yesterday, and we were talking about video chat or videos, and I showed somebody about a reel that I put out last week that a gentleman had some not so nice comments. Was talking some not so great things, but guess what? Killed him with kindness, responded. It just tune it out. You just have to, Gary Vee says it best, tune out the highs and the lows and just put your message out there and be you. You will find that tribe. You'll find that group of people that will support you. But you have to get away from being fearful.
Yep.
Just, I know it's simple to say, but I mean, it really is. Technology has made it so easy for us just to hit record. I'm recording this because my DSLR camera went bad on me. I'm on my iPhone right now. Just hit
Right.
record and go.
It, I agree. And people have to just embrace it. And for those of you that have been waiting and pondering, when should I get started? If you would have got started at the beginning of this year, think of how much further you would have been.
Hmm.
Stop putting it off. lean in, get started. So let's talk a little bit about social media, because one of the ways to leverage all of this great video content is you've got to find ways and avenues to share it. Talk to me a little bit about how you view social media and how that can help loan officers, how that can help real estate agents. Walk me through that a little bit.
I think social is a great way to get your message out there, but it's also a great way to start that online conversation and then bring it offline to where you can start having those in-person conversations. It's a starter, but where I'm going to go back to it, I just harp on it over and over again. It's the consistent aspect of being on social. I don't sit on social to scroll and look at what everybody else is doing. I literally go on there to post and I get off. Do you need to have a personal side to social? I think there needs to be some personal. I don't like to share anything about my family. I think you're the same way. I'll put my dog on there. If I go to a restaurant, I'll share a restaurant or something to that extent. But that's about as limited as I get to personal, because I think that's just a space I'm in. But social is such a powerful tool. You don't have to pay for ads. It's free. It literally is free. You just have to put the time and effort into it. And nowadays, there's platforms that you can use to aggregate posts that you can post across all your social channels and have everything set up for the week in a matter of about an hour and a half is what it takes me on a Saturday morning. I sit down before everyone gets up. I get all my social posts scheduled, ready to go for the week, done. And then I can do interactions during the week. I can also record my podcast, but I set time aside every single week for social posts to be put up to where they're consistent and my followers are seeing my messages. And I put out a funny one. This is a side note. I put out a funny question every single night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Do you know how many people? I mean, I've gotten to a point to where I get between 25 and 30 comments within 5 minutes. And it's dumb questions like, would you
Right.
go to a restaurant that was dirty? It's just dumb things like that because that's
But
just who I
it gets
am.
people to stop and to think, and like you said, it's who you are. So you brought up a couple things
Correct.
I want to make sure we emphasize, because I think this is probably the number one most important out of all things, whether it's video, whether it's social, whether it's posting, content creation. Consistency is,
Hmm.
in my opinion, my superpower and critical for people. It Consistency doesn't depend on skill set, knowledge, expertise, anything. It's you've got to consistently put yourself out there. Quit trying to have the perfect post. There's no such thing. Quit trying to make, the viral thing that everyone's going to love. Just each week, consistently put that out there. And it's funny, you go on vacation or you're gone for a week from, for Christmas or something, and people are like, hey, Hammond, is everything all right? Because they're waiting for that Monday morning fuel up or that Fintech hunting podcast on Wednesday. And I'm sure you see the same thing,
Yeah.
that if you're off for even a week, people want to know, hey, Ryan, where are you? I didn't see, that funny question at 7 p.m. Where is it? So consistency is key. And then I think the other thing that you brought up, and I want to touch upon this while we still got a few minutes, is that whole personal thing. And I think it's one thing that, as I talk to a lot of executives, they struggle with the most. Well, what am I going to talk about? I don't want to talk about just mortgages all the time. Great. And you and I think, follow a lot of the same thought pattern of, I share things that are personal, but I don't share things that are private.
Yes.
Right? I've got two daughters. I don't use their names. I don't share their ages very often, but I can say, hey, I had a great weekend and we did X, Y, or Z. I may not give a location. And there's a person that I love the discussion I had on my podcast a while back, Chelsea Pites. The gram is her jam. She does a lot of coaching, teaching on Instagram, and she did a great talk about the difference between personal and private. She said, private, I never share. I don't give out my address. I don't give out what school my kid goes to. I don't give out those things. That's really nobody's business. I bought a house. Nobody needs to know how much I paid for it. But if I don't share some personal things,
Hmm.
people find me less relatable. So if all I do is get up here and say, buy a mortgage, buy a mortgage, buy a mortgage, that's not relatable. So your humor, your sarcasm,
Yes.
bringing in your things allow people a window into who Ryan is, and
Mhm.
then you're much more relatable. Would you agree with that?
Yes, because you become a person, and even though it's online, I think it gives it a better shot to go offline. And a good example would be some realtors that have been following me, and I interact with them online, and I will comment, share, their open houses. Well, I've taken it up another notch, and then I will start sharing that open house with a comment. Go see Johnny Smith this weekend at their open house. Great looking house, could be yours. That is turned into 5 conversations offline through a phone call saying, "Hey, why are you sharing my post? Because I like the house and I want you to sell it." And next
Right.
thing you know, it's like the conversation turns to personal. We start talking about, who we are, and then it leads into, "I see you putting out a bunch of posts about deals that have hair on it. I've got one right now. Do you know what a 1099-A loan is?" "Yeah, I understand what the form is." And go through that whole process. It's just conversation. And that's all I'm trying to do is create conversation to see where it takes us.
Well, and I love that because when you're relatable and you can have those conversations, then you can find an area where you could add value. And you
Hmm.
can't add value to every deal, every
No.
communication, but if you're willing to listen and really tune into those individuals, they're going to say, "Hey, Ryan was really helpful. He said he couldn't help me on this because of X, Y, and Z. Here's where I should go." Awesome. They're going to respect that. Let's shift gears a little bit. Talk to me about your view on coaching and why do people need a coach? I mean,
Oh,
you've been in the industry years. I've been in the industry a number of years. Why would we need a coach? Why do people need coaches in the mortgage industry?
oh, it's the best thing. I mean, whether it's the mortgage industry or anything else that you're doing in business, you need to find a coach, a mentor that's going to give it to you straight, but also help you grow individually as a person, a business leader, an entrepreneur, whoever that is. Coaches are so invaluable, and until you can actually understand the I guess the best way to describe it is there's just not a dollar amount you can put on coaching. If you find the right person you get to work with, that person could be worth billions of dollars because that person's going to help you grow in every aspect of your life, whether you know it or not. If you apply the learnings that you're getting from that person, your life changes. And I'm not trying to pitch it, but Vision 2020, I'm part of. I love what you and Christine and Fredo and Mark and everybody's doing there. It's it's not just coaching. You're part of a tribe to where you're learning so many different aspects of the industry, but people are true and willing to help you at whatever means needed so you can get ahead in life. And that's just great coaching and great mentorship.
Well, and I agree completely. And I'm glad you mentioned 2020. There's a lot of great things they're doing there. But I have a coach. I think it all comes down to lifelong learning. And if
Yeah.
you're open to lifelong learning, every day I see what you're posting. I see what other people are posting. Like, oh, yeah, that's really great. This guy's been in the industry 25 years and he just updated his profile for his social accounts because he
Hmm.
wanted to have more impact. Hey, somebody said you should really try this, or here's a new book. Anytime you can keep learning and not think that you've arrived,
Hmm.
good things are going to happen from that. And the example I always give is no one has a problem looking at sports and saying, "Why, look at them, they have coaches." Tiger Woods he's got a putting coach, he's got a chipping coach, he's got a driving coach, he's got a mental mindset coach. You look at college football, they've got a DB coach, they got this coach, they got a strength and conditioning coach. All of that is perfectly fine, and these people are making millions of dollars and are a far better athlete than I'll ever be. But when it comes to business, a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I've already been in the industry 5 or 10 years. I don't really need any of that stuff." I think in some ways you need it more because there's blind spots we all have, and
Oh,
somebody
yes.
can share and articulate that. All right, we're winding down. Ryan, you and I can talk all day long. You are welcome back anytime. I love our conversation. What do you think's in store for 2024 for real estate, for the mortgage industry? What are some of the things you're most optimistic about? And what are a couple last tips you would leave people with?
Industry wise, I think we're going to have a shift in 2024, and we're already starting to see it with the 10-year treasury coming down. We're down at 4.20 this morning. Uh, we're going to see some rates come down. So you're going to start seeing more people come into the market. Everyday closings happen, guys. So I think we're on pace for about 4 million annually here nationwide, which is a 2008 low. I think 2024, we're going to see a nice little pent up demand, hopefully. So that's great. Can there be a shift? I really do think there's going to be a shift. I think housing prices have kept people off the side or on the sideline. I think with some lower rates, you're going to see more people come into the market. Some tips for LOs and maybe just real estate in general. I'm back to my old adage. I live by it every day. You got to be persistent and consistent in your messaging and finding that niche. And if you can do that right now, I don't joke about it, but I put out on my videos, we have 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks now before Christmas.
Yep.
Everyone, and I hear a lot of people that are mailing it in for 2024 saying, I'll start back up in 2024. You're going to be too late. So if I only give two, go hard, put your marketing out there, connect with people today, because you're going to love yourself in 2024 when the market turns and those people come back into the market in 2024 in January, and you're the first person they reach out to because they see your marketing.
I love
It's
it.
just very
Ryan,
simple.
what's the best way people can get a hold of you? If they want to have a further discussion, if they want to have further dialogue, what can they do to get a hold of you?
Easiest way is Ryan at TruVest.co. So RYAN at TruVest, TRUVEST.co.
Ryan, I can't thank you enough for being a guest on this episode of the FinTech Hunting Podcast.
Thank you.